everyone, I'm Seb the Factor, and I've been delivering some mindfulness online sessions for the Shaman Women's Centre over the past few months. So today we're going to be looking at ageing with grace and power. So let's get straight into it. Sometimes the concept of growing older can hold so many negative feelings. Things like our health's going to decrease, our lifestyle's going to be limited in terms of what we can do, and perhaps other changes and worries too. And people who are growing older tend to be focused on the negatives of ageing rather than looking at it from a positive perspective in terms of all the free time you'll have and perhaps the extra travel once lockdown is eased, or learning something new and doing things that you didn't perhaps have a chance to do. If you tend to follow a more negative approach to ageing, you're probably seeing a future full of limitations of what you can do and what you can accomplish. But this simply doesn't have to be the case. As I head towards my mid-40s, I see growing old kind of like a change of gear. So going from that fifth gear, like we did earlier in life when we had all the energy and we were able to do all the things we wanted to do, and now changing gear in a way that is more suitable for my lifestyle, but still doing the things that I love to do. So by simply changing our perspective on things, we're able to adjust our view and take life in our own stride. So our focus shifts later in life, but aging or growing older does not have to be a negative word. In fact, aging can be seen as a positive thing because it empowers our mindset. So if you make the decision to redefine your thoughts and behaviour patterns now as you enter that next stage of your life, you'll come to realise that you have the power of those thoughts and emotions around those thoughts too. So I want to give you an example of seasons and how I align that to growing older. So just as the seasons change, each stage is beautiful and brings its own amazing scene amongst the cycle of life. So let's look at spring. Spring is like being born. Everything is new and fresh, and wonder lies ahead as to what will emerge from the ground and all the lovely sights we see in spring. Seeing that first daffodil open its petals is wonderful, as I'm sure you'll agree. And then I compare summer to being at the peak of our lives. The sun is shining, everything is blooming, the birds are singing, and we hear laughter and people enjoying the moment. We take life by the horns and we enjoy what we can where we can. Then we move on to autumn. And autumn's beauty is just as important because when those leaves begin to change colour, we begin to reflect on that beauty around us and how that same tree was green with growth in the summer, but is now changing its phase naturally, beginning to settle into this new phase, preparing for winter. And then winter, it's a bit like entering the later years of life. Your pace slows down and we get comfortable in our new phase of life. And we constantly be reminded of growth. Even the day and night, if you think of dawn starts, it's like a beginning, and then we enter sort of midday, that can be the peak of your life. And then as the evening approaches, it's like approaching those senior years as well. So we're constantly being reminded of the cycles of life and ageing and growing. So, and each has its advantage, the morning, the midday, the late afternoon and the evening and night. So all bring their own advantages. But if we begin to see things negatively in terms of growing older, we just have to shift our perspective and use that time wisely. So it's the concept of aging more mindfully. So mindful aging is not a way of avoiding the reality of getting older because it's a fact we're all going to get older. Instead, mindful aging is about looking at getting older with more of an open mindset, more optimistically. In other words, not worrying about the negative aspects of ageing, but also not denying them, acknowledging them too. We can't ignore the signs of growing older, but we need to embrace it and move forward with that. And we all grow older, but what we do with the time given to us and how we manage that time, it makes the biggest difference in the long term. So, as our hair begins to thin or grey, Why not look at those silver grey hairs as shouting out to the world that you are wise and you've experienced life and you're more empowered because of it? Not because your hair is no longer producing the colour that resides within the cuticles of the hair, but you're entering a new phase of life. Or perhaps your joints are not as flexible, you aren't able to engage in those high impact sports or fitness routines, for example, as you did before. But don't let that stop you there. All we need to do is shift our mindset, understand our body in this new phase of growing older with grace, and find new ways of keeping healthy and take it as a challenge. And we don't have to worry about trying to look younger, trying to do the things we did when we were younger in that frame of mind. Do different things. Do things, but you'll be more mature now, more wiser to take advantage of doing things in a different way. So let's share a few tips together. Be aware of negative self-talk. I'm going to give you a little example. Avoid statements, should I say, about I'm too old to, for example, do that. Is a really good place to start. How often do we say that? Oh, I'm too old. Oh, I can't do that anymore. Well, you might not be able to do that anymore, but what can you do? But why would change your way and think, oh, thank you for that, I'll come along to that, thanks for inviting me, but I'll come along just to join in the background perhaps. I want to mention my grandfather. He was an amazing gentleman. He had an active life and lived well into his early hundreds, and he didn't look older than, I'd say, 75 to 80. And his philosophy in life taught me to enjoy life as he saw himself on a journey that didn't end with death. And he always pointed out, make the most of the time that you have got, and grow alongside yourself. Take advantage of every breath that you have. And as you begin to enter the big numbers, I remember when I turned 40 a few years ago, and I had mixed emotions about it. I just kind of put it to the back bench and thought, let's see what happens. And I remember somebody saying to me, you do know you're over the hill at 40, don't you? And I just paused and reflected, and I thought, I'm not going to react. I'm going to process it, wait to see what I want to say and how I want to respond. And what I said was, well, actually, I feel life begins at 40. And that's when I decided to focus on that point. We're not over the hill at 40. That's what society expects us to be. But I think society is changing the way we see our age and moving forward. So I believe life begins at 40. Letting go. Take time out to reflect and think about distancing yourself from toxic people or situations, such as bearing grudges and relationships. Let go of the past. I often find older generations sometimes they can't hold on, they can't let go of the past, and sometimes they can't even remember why they had a grudge with somebody, but it's so embedded in them. Let go of those grudges, that pain, even the things you no longer remember, and invest in yourself. Make room for new experiences, new adventures under your terms. And another important point is change your perspective. Make time to focus within, perhaps making decisions and in terms of putting your own joy first without the approval of others. One way to do this, or the many ways to do this, is to practice things such as meditation or yoga or Pilates or Tai Chi or Qigong. There's so many different things. Or just going for a walk and sitting and immersing yourself in nature perhaps, which all reduce stress and anxiety while improving flexibility, circulation and mental clarity. So we just need to adjust by embracing and acknowledging this new stage in our life. Visualizing. Let's look at that. So picture what you want your life to look like and take steps to turn that vision into reality. Perhaps you want to write your vision down so you're reminded of it constantly. So when we forget and get off that track a little bit of where we want to go, we see it in front of us. You might want to share that vision with a friend or a loved one perhaps, or maybe even create a vision board, which was amazing. And perhaps we'll do that in one of the later sessions. I'll teach you how to put together a vision board. This is really important too, learn to love and respect and nurture your body. Notice the physical effects of aging by respecting your body, not holding against yourself. This means getting plenty of exercise where you can. Remember, we're not talking about high impact. Unless you feel you're able to do high impact, that's fantastic. There's lots of alternatives. Yoga, low impact exercises, stretching, doing things regularly allows your joints to become flexible and your brain produces more serotonin to get you feeling naturally in a better place. Even though your body is not going to be the same as it was in your 20s or 30s, you may be surprised, in fact you will be surprised at what it's capable of, so much more than you think it is. Don't let those creaky joints in your knees or in your arms or hands stop you. Learn to embrace it, learn to understand your body and find a new way of keeping yourself healthy. You might want to find an interest or a new hobby. Do something that encourages your creativity and passion, like trying a new hobby. Now, I believe everyone's creative. Some are more than others. Perhaps they've explored that more in life. Why not try something creative and surprise yourself and see what you're capable of? And when lockdown eases, travelling as well. I'm looking forward to doing a bit of travelling in the future, in and around the UK, and just to enjoy and take everything in, because it's hard, life is busy, so we want to take in as much as we can. Or volunteering or starting your own business like me, which I did later on in life. You're never too old to start something new. I was a late achiever in my life due to personal circumstance growing up. But I completed my academic studies and started Resonate Success later in life because I was determined that what I wasn't able to achieve when I was younger, I'm going to apply it later on. And it was on my long-term goals list, and I did it. And I did it for me. I'm much wiser than I was in my 20s and 30s, and that's what the bonus is. Bringing that maturity and wisdom along, you see life so much more differently. So the benefits of mindful aging and applying the concept of mindful aging. This approach recognises the value of living in the here and now and acknowledging the countless benefits to aging and growing gracefully into that next stage of our lives. Perhaps you're wondering how changing your approach by aging will help you in the long run. Let's look at a few studies. Some studies have shown that older adults who practice mindful aging actually develop more positive emotions because you take the time out to focus on what's around you and give yourself less time for fear, regret, and that self-judgment that we place on ourselves. Another study showed that older adults tend to be more mindful and focused on the present than younger people. Now, this may be a coping mechanism perhaps developed over the years in response to facing lots of life's different challenges, or perhaps it's the hard fact that we have not as many years left as we anticipated. So that kind of propels us to focus more on living in the present, which makes sense. Regardless of the reasons, the present is a good place to get everything how you want it to be. And when I work with clients in my hypnotherapy practice, I work on engaging the client in the present moment, and the amount of amazing things that happen for clients that they come to terms with in terms of putting aside all those negative thoughts and behaviours and concentrating on the present and the here and now has been absolutely amazing to see. And seeing people more happier, more at peace with themselves and confidence has been wonderful. So, grow old gracefully in your power. So I'm going to leave you with a quote today. It's funny how we outgrow what we once thought we couldn't live without. And when we fall in love with what we didn't even know we wanted, life keeps leading us on a journey we would never go on if it were up to us. So don't be afraid, have faith, find the lessons and trust in the journey. So thank you for joining me today. The next session I'm looking forward to delivering is about compassion. So take care and enjoy that process of aging more mindfully.